The problem with a lot of these folks that are doing these videos, these video essays about movies, is that you get the impression that they're not really speaking from experience at all. I mean, they're speaking from the experience of being people who watch a lot of movies,
Yeah.
but they're not really speaking from the experience of people who've actually tried to make movies, real feature films. And that probably works against them in a way because they seem to have ridiculously high standards for
Yeah.
everybody. Their standards would probably diminish quite a bit if they actually gave it a try themselves, and then they'd be a
Yeah.
little more sympathetic.
I mean, I find
Uh,
myself doing that. Like, I get on here and talk about movies, and then I watch one of these like low budget, we raised money on Kickstarter, we filmed it in a weekend, and I'm just like, what are you doing? That is,
yeah.
it's the worst thing I've ever seen. And I've never made a movie, but I could watch a movie and tell you didn't put any work into this at all. Like, what are you doing?
Well, that might be the best standard or the thing that we should be most concerned about when we're critiquing low budget films. Is does it really appear that any a great amount of thought or effort went into it, or is it something that looks like it was done over a weekend with,
Yeah.
because uh, it's very difficult with indie films that are done on a very low level, a few $1,000s, or whatever. It's very difficult to critique things like the acting because what's the chances you're going to be able to get talented actors to work on a
Right. Yeah.
micro budget production? Uh, and with my films, I know I've had the experience of having people on the one hand say I loved it, and then other folks on the other hand say, "Why? What is this?" It's like they don't even recognize it as a movie, and say, "Oh, what is this terrible shit?" So I feel for the filmmakers that are putting things out that get harshly criticized. But I also know I've seen plenty of the things that like you're talking about that does
Yeah.
look like there's something thrown together where people don't even bother to do things like put in room tone so that when you cut from one camera to the other, you don't have that
Yeah.
variation in background sound. You would think that there's some things that by now everybody would sort of understand. And if you don't do those basic things, it's a like willful ignorance or willful avoidance of the things you have to do to make, a successful or at least presentable film.
Yeah. I mean, like when I watch some of these, and I follow a lot of these people on Facebook, so I see whenever they post their Kickstarter or Indiegogo, they're like, "Oh, we're trying to raise money," and you go to it, and they're wanting like $10,000 or whatever,
Right.
and then the campaign ends, and then a month later the movie's out, and you're like, "There's no way," and then you watch it, and you're like, "How did they get Eric Roberts to be in this movie?"
Yeah.
And it's just I just don't. I just wonder where that money actually goes. Yeah.
Well, that's an
I think
interesting
they pocket
question.
a
Yeah.
lot of it and they just kind of,
That's
film
possible.
whatever,
Sure. I mean, one could have a